Okay, I'm just going to say it. I've got a problem. I got a big, big problem. That is, I consume a lot of different YouTube channels, especially when it's related to writing and self-publishing. So I find a lot of really great gems over on YouTube, some undiscovered talent there. And that's what leads me to today's guest, SD Huston. You're going to probably hear me refer to her as Shanon. SD Huston is her author name and also the name of her YouTube channel, where she shares a little bit about writing and self-publishing. The part that I really love about Shanon is her enthusiasm, her positivity, her upbeat attitude to the entire business of writing and self-publishing. And also, she has an uncanny ability to create author interactions and connections and networking. In fact, you will see she actually does panels over on her channel. She's been on other people's channels. She's constantly working her face off. And I just love her work ethic. And that's what leads me to what we will be discussing today, the Authortube Writing Conference. If you want more details about getting this 100% free author conference, yeah, no catches. There's no upsales. There's no downsales. There's no money. Put your wallet away. Go to authortubewritingconference.com to get more details. I believe the first day is on July 15th, and I just happen to be the keynote speaker, and I'm just tickled to death to be doing that. Without any further ado, let's go ahead and talk to SD Huston. Shanon, I've been following your channel now for a little while now. You gotta take me back a little bit, because I just stumbled over a video of yours where you shared with me that you're a teacher. What?
Yes, I was. So I spent many years teaching college English and literature, and at the same time, I ran my own business as a writing coach. And so I spent all those years helping everybody else be a great writer, but it was so consuming that I stopped writing myself for those years, and I realized that's not what I wanted to do.
So what was the switch for you? What was that pivotal moment where you were like, screw this, I'm doing it for myself for a change?
My husband retired from the military.
Really? Wow.
Yes. So I told him, I was like, if we can set it up, we can get our finances straight. When you retire from the military, I would like to pursue writing instead of teaching. And he was like, well, you've been supporting me all these years, because he retired with almost 22 years. And he said, you've been supporting me all this time, so it's my turn to support you.
That's crazy. What branch of the service was he in?
He was in the Army, but he was actually a captain on boats. So interesting.
Interesting. Wow. Yeah. So you were then able to go ahead and pivot over to full-time writing. Am I right in saying that?
Yes.
How did that feel for you? What was that transition like?
Oh, wow. Well, at first it was liberating, but then I think because I like to stay busy. I stay busy all the time, and I put myself into my work, and I had put myself so much into my teaching and my students and my clients that I had that when we first were done, because we actually moved as well. When we left the military, we moved to a new house, get the house straight. And when everything was done, I just slept for 3 months. But I was thinking about my story, which is the one that's published now. It's the first book in my trilogy.
Yeah.
And so, and the third and final book in the trilogy is coming out in June. It's with my editor right now. So, I got there. It took me a couple years to really get into the flow of remembering, what is this writing thing again? Because when you stop writing, you stop, using those muscles to remind yourself of what's the best practices when it comes to writing and getting your thought across. So it took a little bit for me to get back into that rhythm.
Okay, so this is probably going to be a stupid question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. With you having your expertise in English and writing, do you actually hire an editor, or are you so bold that you're like, nah, I'm that good, I don't need an editor?
So I knew that having worked with other people for a while, that my craft was not going to be the best level that it could be. So I hired an editor. Now, with that said, the editor for my third book, for my trilogy, I have a 4-book plan series next. I am stepping back and seeing what I can do, because I spent so much money on production costs. I don't know when I'm ever going to make that money back. And I made my own covers. I didn't hire someone to do my covers.
Gotcha.
So I'm like, how can I save money here? And now I can try to rely on myself. But what I've done is I've kind of hooked up with somebody who's also an English teacher. And we've decided that we're going to, once we do the best editing we can, and I'm going to try and put together a grammar typo buster team for my newsletter list if I can, and other people I know, to help me find those typos on purpose. And then we'll exchange manuscripts and help each other out.
Okay, what was the name of that team again?
Oh, well, I'm playing around with names with grammar or typo buster team.
Typo Buster team. I am officially calling my beta reading team that from now on. I'm like, you guys are the Typo Busters. Oh, you've got a problem with it? You're fired.
So
this is so cool to hear how you're not so hung up on having to spend thousands of dollars, and you're confident that you can be able to get those things ironed out. And I do believe it's certainly possible. Would you recommend that to your followers and other authors as well?
I think you have to take a good look at what you're capable of doing. Okay. I had an editor back in 2018 when I was writing. I had a summer off from teaching, so I wrote a book, and I had an editor. And she said something that has been said to me over and over again by a lot of my editors, which is I write clean, which means I write without a whole lot of typos. I tend to miss prepositions like the word of often. But so I think, okay, that's kind of my strength. And I would say, I think it's important to work with an editor in the beginning, even though those are prohibitive costs for some, because you learn from your editor. And that way, if you can learn that lesson and move it forward into your own drafts later, then that would be helpful.
That's so smart. And I think that's something that I've always enjoyed about working with an editor was it's made me a stronger writer. All right, well, let's pivot over to something that obviously you're starting to get a major presence on, which is YouTube. What led you from, all right, I left my teaching job, to now I'm writing, to now I'm crazy enough to get onto a camera, upload these videos over to YouTube. And by the way, it's fairly polished too as well.
So self-publishing has been pushed. My girlfriend I've had from my master's program, she's been saying self-publish. She's been doing this since like 2017, and she was making more money than I was teaching college English. And so she's like, you need to do this. But she always talked to me about having a social media presence. And I was a very private person. I did not have very much of a social media presence at all. And, I watched a lot of author-tubers and YouTubers who write and publish, and they're like, you have to get into social media somewhere. Even if it's just one, find one. So I tried out all of them, and YouTube to me felt the best. It's the most time-consuming, so I wish it wasn't the best for me. But I look at YouTube as a place, because I did love to teach. I love sharing the knowledge that I learned. And so YouTube allowed me that outlet, and it made it feel creative for me versus posting on Twitter or Instagram. So I tried all of them. And then after my first book launch, I was like, I'm scaling back to just YouTube.
So have you seen pretty good results so far from doing YouTube?
I would say that getting to know certain people and having those connections with others has helped. I've had one author tuber who he has grown exponentially since I met him, because I think he was under 500 when I met him, and now he's like at almost 800.
Wow, not bad.
Yeah. So he's a really good. He's one of those outliers for writers, which is he's an extrovert, and so he likes talking to people.
Wow, that's he's a rare breed.
He's a rare breed, yeah. So he brought me on to his channel to talk about my first book, and he brought me on for the second book, and he's going to bring me on for the third book. And each time it was a live interview, and people in the chat saying, "Hey, I just bought your book. And I can tell, like, the day that I was on his channel for my second book release, that was the highest day of sales I had. So I mean, I think it's done somewhat well. Definitely, it's added to what I probably would not have had if I didn't have those connections or have those made those relationships with people.
This is really cool, because I've heard a lot of people feel it's a myth that interviews sell books. Some people say, oh, you can't do an interview and sell books immediately. But I guess results may vary. Could you speak on that experience? Is that something that you've done time and again? And have you saw the same results of selling books after an interview? So,
I've only had 2 books come out so far.
Okay.
And the first book release was back in November, and I did go back. I didn't have a whole lot. It was the first book in a trilogy. I don't think a lot of people like to really buy books when it's a series and it's not done yet.
Yeah.
And I did that as 99 cents, I believe, was the cost of that book, my first book in the series. And I think there was roughly 10 to 15 sales. And then with the second book release, I made the first book free, and the second book was 99 cents. And as far as downloads of that first book, on that Wednesday, I had over 1,000 downloads, which I also did a book promotion that day, but that was my highest day of downloads for my first book, and along with some sales as well. I sold 82 books of my second book that week, which I think there was like 15 or 20 of them was that day on Wednesday. It was a Wednesday when I was on his channel. So,
Wow. What was the book promo, if you don't mind me asking?
oh, I'd have to go back and look at my list. I did a stacking. I did stacking of the
Okay,
book
so it
promotion.
wasn't like any one specific site. You went for the full launch on this one, did the book promo, did the interview,
Yeah.
but you did at least have people actively saying in the live broadcast, "Hey, I
Yes.
bought your book." So
I
that's
just bought your
really
book.
cool.
Yeah.
You have managed to network with and chat with so many different people. In fact, I believe it's Jenna that you might have turned me on to over on her channel. I've subscribed to hers, but you know, like a lot of people. Speak to me about your keen ability to network and build out a network of professionals.
So I just watched what other people were doing, and to be honest, so the gentleman that I was just talking about was Barrett Laurie. I watched what he was doing in his networking, and I just followed suit. Which he pointed out to me. He says, "I see you're doing what I'm doing." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm learning." And the main idea is, I mean, you just find people who are in the community and you support them. You leave comments on their channel. You talk to them. You just have to connect in a real way. You're not doing it like I'm doing this to make a connection, but find something that you like about their content or whatever it is that they're presenting on YouTube, and speak to that. And for me, I love learning new stuff. I could have been a lifelong student, honestly. I could have gone to school forever. I love learning new stuff, so I'm always keen to get more information. So that's my love of, and that's what I try to find when I go to other people's channels. Like, oh wow, that was really great. I really learned this from you, and thank you for sharing that information. So,
Who are like a few of your favorites right now? And please don't say my name. I'm just going to get that one out the way.
honestly, I mean, probably my top favorite besides you would be MK Williams. I absolutely love her channel.
Isn't she awesome?
Yes, I love her channel. I love it. So I also do a podcast. It's not very big, but I do self-publishing tips and tricks podcast. And one of my co-hosts, Ben Pick, his channel is Running to Write. He really delves into books and looks at characters, and I mean, he does a whole, the story, and he kind of does analogies between that and running. That's why it's Running to Write, because he likes to run. He's a big runner. But I really enjoy learning and breaking down books the way he does. I love what he does there, and he's a very small channel still. So, but he's really great. Michael Laron, he has great content. Not that he needs me to prop him up anymore, because he's got a great following, and I mean he's got great content. Trying to see who else do I.
He's a content machine lately. Like
yes,
he puts out a blog post every day on his community tab.
Yes.
He has at least 2 to 3 videos per week, and then he also has shorts that he's been rolling out and stories. Bro,
Yes.
I can't keep up, man.
Yep. Another person, Heidi Thorne.
Yes.
You know her? Yes. I love
Heidi
her.
is awesome. Honestly, she
Yeah.
deserves so much more attention
Yes.
than what she gets.
Yes, I totally agree. I think she's close to the 600 subscriber mark, but she has great content, and she's well spoken, and she has that background experience in business and marketing, so you can learn so much from her channel. So yeah.
This is really cool. So what's the direction? What's the trajectory of your YouTube channel at this point? What is your end goal?
So at the moment, I don't have it by me. I have a schedule. I started May 1st because I'm not writing as much as I want to write. And so I'm like, let me break down my day. So I right now I'm logging every minute of the day. What am I doing? And I have a feeling that I'm going to see I spend too much time on YouTube versus writing. Mm-hmm. And so I am trying to think about how can I continue doing YouTube and grow, and while also writing, because I actually kind of have a deadline on my writing life, sort of. So my parents, they own a liquor store. I live down here in Florida. Nice. And my husband and I have decided that we're going to buy the liquor store from them when they retire. Well, that's 2025. So I've got 3 years to get done what I can get done and get my career going before we take over the liquor store. So I have that hanging over my head. And I love YouTube. So glad you brought it up. So we have the first Authortube Writing Conference, which is a virtual conference for those who are interested in writing and or publishing. And I thought, you know what, this might be my big thing that I do every year on YouTube. That might be where I concentrate most of my energies in the future, at least until I get my author career to where I want it to be.
Nice. All right, you're you segued perfectly over to it, and I wanted to talk about your virtual summit. Tell me about the name, and is there the dates that are hashed out? Give me the full details about how this thing came together.
So the Authortube Writing Conference, Authortube is a segment of the YouTube community where people get together who are not necessarily authors, it's kind of a misnomer there, but those who like to write, and it can include authors as well. And there are lots of little different pockets of Authortube everywhere that you can look in the Authortube community. But the one thing I thought of is I like writing conferences. Like I won a ticket to go to the 20 Books of 50K writing conference later this year.
Nice. We get to see each other in person.
No, there's a caveat on that.
Oh, dang it.
Yeah. So when I started looking at the cost for the hotel, for the plane, and I am the biggest introvert. I don't like to go out my front door if I don't have to. I do. I go out the front door to go to the gym. That's about the only time I leave my front door. So I started getting anxious. And then my girlfriend, the one that was pushing me for years to publish, she's gone to every conference. But this year she's not because she just had a baby. So I thought, I'm not going to know anybody. And then she's like, don't worry, just go sit by somebody. And I'm like, that's easy for you to say. But, and then the cost at the time that I was looking at, trying to lock everything down, our dog, she passed away, but she was old. We were spending thousands of dollars trying to figure out how can we help her, live longer, but it ended up just being better at putting her down. So I was looking at all those costs going out the door. I'm not working. My husband said, go for it. But I'm like, I can't justify spending a couple $1,000s for plane ticket and hotel when I'm already feeling anxious about going because I'm introverted. I know I can do it. I do push myself to do things, but so I give the ticket back.
Interesting. So Miss Introvert decides she's going to go ahead, put together this Authortube virtual summit. What's this going to look like?
So I love the idea of writing conferences, but knowing that I'm an introvert, it's hard for me to go to an actual conference. I will push myself eventually to do that when it's a little bit more within my cost range that I want to spend. And so I thought, well, there's a lot of virtual conferences going on. How can we do this? And to be honest, information, knowledge, I feel in a lot of ways, and not everyone's going to agree with me on this, should be free for those of us who don't have the money to get off the ground and get something published and going and writing. And a lot of us are in that position where we don't have the money to pay for those kind of things. So I like the idea of it being free and being on YouTube, where it will be there for years to come, as long as people keep their videos up and that everyone can go to. So that was the idea. I started thinking about it in November of last year. And I thought that'd be really cool if it was like a virtual conference, but we could also include a lot of the creators in the Authortube community so that they have a chance to reach more of an audience as well.
I think the concept was very interesting. It's almost like a super collaboration is what it is on YouTube. And I think when you reached out to me initially, I'm going, and then you kind of explain it more. And I'm like, yeah, I see that working. That actually could, because you just have this massive network of people that are putting out great free resources for everybody. So it definitely makes me excited. So is there a finalized date at this point?
Yes. So July 15th through the 17th, which is a Friday through a Sunday, are the dates of the actual conference. So, and there will be a full schedule on the website, which is really easy to remember if you know the name of the conference, is AuthortubeWritingConference.com.
AuthortubeWritingConference.com. And then everybody can get all the information. Is there any sign up? Do I need to pay anything? Full disclosure, what are we dealing with here?
No one has to sign up. It's going to be absolutely free. So
that's a good feeling. So you're not taking my email address so we go do a virtual summit and then you remarket and retarget me and then I've got a whole inbox full of mail that I didn't want.
Yes. I mean, because YouTube is free to viewers in most cases, unless you pay for the subscription plans. So, but, hopefully for those creators who make the content for the Authortube community or in the writing conference, maybe one day they'll be able to monetize those videos.
That's good stuff. Hey, you know what? That's really been the key to my success. I mean, I have nearly 1,000 videos between 2 channels about self-publishing, and some of them at first weren't pulling any money, but the nice thing is all of those later on started to generate revenue. All right, well, let's wrap it up here with the question I like to give all of my guests, which is, what advice can you give to aspiring authors and self-publishers?
Don't wait. So I remember in 2010, I told my husband, I want to do this. I want to self-publish, which it was just kicking off then, right? The whole, Amazon and ebook and everything was just starting a couple of years before that. And I thought, well, how viable is it? And I let it go. And I've waited all these years. And I wish I would have found the time, even when I was teaching, I wish I would have carved out the time to do something to get this going. So if you know this is something you would like to do, don't wait, do it.
I want to give a big shout out to Shanon. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to spend a little bit of time with us. And folks, if you want more details about the 100% free Author Writing Conference, go to authortubewritingconference.com. Get the schedule. You'll be able to see so many great speakers. I'm on the bill. Becca Syme's going to be on the bill. Oh gosh, there's just a host of so many great people. I think I'd be doing a disservice if I didn't mention everybody that's on there. So in any event, I will see you at the Authortube Writing Conference. And until next week, I will also catch you in another interview.